I am a berry fanatic, a wild berry fanatic. I'm wild about berries, and it's wild berries that I crave. So that's a confession. So when it's the season for each berry, it's like an orchestration. It's beautiful. One berry kind of goes into season, and as strawberries, as the wild strawberries come into season, they dip down, blueberries peak and dip down, and then blackberries, all the way into cranberries in the deep cold. I'm even harvesting those. But I get into these situations when searching for the berries. There are these unbelievable situations. I mean, it really shows what a fiend for berries I am. I will be, let's say, if I'm going after like kind of a bramble style berry, like the blackberries or the raspberries with the thorns and the sharp points, right? I might find myself, and very often do find myself, kind of sliding up, scooting up backwards along a small stream or a creek, because that's where the brambles can't grow over the water there. It's just a little bit of a tunnel that's made, and I'll scoot backwards on my back, scraping my back, getting wet, up through the stream, the river, and then I'll be reaching over through a tangle of an obstacle course of brambles and thorns to get that right berry that no other animal or humans are animals, but could get. And I'm just thinking about this kind of, so I'm a healer, body worker, and in this kind of world, certain musculatures or terms kind of become trendy or famous. And this isn't a new trend. And there's good reasons why these things trend. I'm not dissing them, but core, the concept of core, is kind of something you hear a lot. But then what happens, the danger is that some people explore it deeply, but then you also get these kind of more superficial, like, 5 ways to improve your core, 10 best da 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 da. And it's just like kind of becomes this canned version when core is actually a deep, magical concept. It's actually incredible. Its very nature is diverse, and it's not limited to just this canned reality. And so when I'm on my back in a stream, in a tunnel of brambles, reaching through to get that berry off to the side, that's a very particular sequence of core muscles that are engaged in that moment. Very different than when I'm in a gym and on a flat surface doing a controlled squat on a machine or something like that. That's just totally different. I mean, there's overlap. There's a lot of overlap, in all these, this is the whole point with the body, is that it's very dynamic and there is a lot of overlap. But in terms of like what that looks like core wise, using the same word, lying on my back reaching for a berry, and what it looks like core wise being, hooked up to some sort of machine on a flat padded ground. I won't even get to the fact that there are fluorescent lights and TVs going in that gym, stuff like that. That changes the context too, because when I'm out on my back and, in natural sunlight and, being washed by the wild water of a stream, reaching for a berry, I mean, that's real too. But just talking about the musculature, it's hard to really isolate things though, so I can't help but mention those other things, those other differences. So when we talk about core, it's actually a dynamic principle. It's not just this set canned thing. It's based on context. What is the context? What are you doing? And what core engages to do that particular thing in that particular context best? And that's really locking in, unlocking the truth of what core is more. So being with what's actually happening instead of insisting on, oh no, I learned this is the way to do core, this is what core is because I was taught this way, and that way was based on a gym reality, a flat ground hooked into a machine, or a set easy grip, a balanced weight. You get out into the real world and you're like handling a slippery rock, that's uneven and a little bit muddy or mossy, and carrying that weight or lifting that weight is totally different. Again, there's overlap, but instead of insisting, oh no, I got to do it the way that I learned here, coming into a place of kind of being with it and being present is a way to put it, being kind of in acceptance of this unique context and engaging that way, unlocking that particular version of core, whether on my back or holding the slippy rock or, you know, uh, doing that version, being with that version. That is more, I guess you could use this word, true and more powerful as a result. You know, it's interesting that people talk about authenticity or like being true, but if that can get kind of like a little bit wordy and a bit out there, but it's more. I find it more useful to talk about context, and like especially like when you're talking about like a context of core, and you like bring in that example, like, and that is true about me being a berry fiend. I'll hike up a mountain in the dark of the morning to get the blueberries before the blackberries do. And I get to see the sunrise too at the mountaintop. So it's a good, side benefit, side effects, or side context that I'm in that situation. So, but that's actually, that's a truth. But like, in kind of bringing in that context, that actual real world context, you start realizing that the truth, that kind of authentic core for that moment, engages a particular sequence of fascial reality. And I mean, should we even get into what fascia is, the triple helix, oh boy, the liquid matrix, this is a beautiful truth, but I don't think I'm going to go fully there. We'll just say that even the cellular subatomic kind of scientific speak ends up sounding like straight up magic and poetry. So, and is that, in fact, these things overlap the dynamic nature of things. That's what core is. Core in its essence is spreading the responsibility to kind of a further truth than just one spot. So I'll give you an example, but just to circle back for a second, authenticity is maybe more just about context, because context is kind of being true to the relationship of things in real time. Time is another topic, but being true to the relationship of things to each other. And if they're all relating to each other in context, in that context, that's essentially authenticity. And so authenticity is actually a moving target. It's like not target, but a moving reality that's always based on the contextual situation, whether it could be an entire cultural context, or it could be a unique physical, a situation where getting that berry, I'm on my back. That is a particular context. But back to core and spreading the responsibility. So essentially, I guess we never really left core, but essentially, so like if I'm kind of like reaching out here and I'm just focusing on my handwork or the arm, it's pretty limited. But if I'm tied into the core, and that goes all the way down the opposite leg. So if I'm, or the same leg, I mean, or both, depending on the situation, but, if I'm reaching out there and I'm kind of engaging through the middle kind of stereotypical core, but then down through the leg and even into the feet and toes, the 33 joints of the feet. No joke. Yeah, that's, I keep on coming across these places where I could just dive into the 33 joints of the foot and just go fully into that and spend the whole time there. But just staying with this core, the nature that it's actually responsibility dispersed throughout a larger area, more of an ecosystem, a cooperation, a collaboration of the entirety. That essentially is core, and that changes depending on the context. Even just a slight adjustment of context. I mean, these have been big contextual adjustments, like gym versus picking berries in the wild. But even just a slight adjustment. So, like, I'm picking berries, and if there's like, it happens to be like a stone, like a large rock that I can kind of push off of in the bed of that stream, that changes the context. That changes, slightly adjusted the course. So now that those toes that are actually, let's say it's on the outside of the foot, are actually having access to push off of that rock, that channels all the way through. But I'll just kind of share. So I just kind of fascinated with martial arts, but it's not because I like fighting. It's because I'm fascinated by the kind of the dance of it, the puzzle of it, the biomechanics of it, the energetics of it. There's just so much. It's just endless. And so I've studied with various masters, and it's a funny term, master, but we'll just roll with that. And one teacher of mine, he was relating a story of his teacher's teacher. So this is a guru, and I style mythical figure. I have this whole image of what he looked like. I maybe like some type of beard or particular facial hair of guru style facial hair that they always seem to have. And he's on a mountaintop, but I don't really know actually those details, but I have an imagination, even the garb that he's wearing. But anyway, the story goes like this: is that he was not doing so well in his fighting, in his study of martial arts, and then he fell asleep one night and had this dream that he had no arms. Well, he woke up, and when you wake up, sometimes I wake up from dreams and I just can't shake them. Like, I just kind of have that sensation still of that dream as I walk through my life. It's just, I kind of feel it. It walks with me. I'm still in that dream, so to speak, at least emotionally, maybe, or physically, just like kind of feeling that dream throughout the day for at least a good part of the day, sometimes depending on the power of the dream. Well, he was still in that state of the dream when he went to the dojo and started fighting like he had no arms, and he won. He excelled. He was unstoppable. No one could break through. And essentially what was happening is, by having no arms, he was engaging in this more dynamic, the arms were a consequence of something greater channeling up through his feet and core out. And the arms were the last thing in the sequence, kind of like an end result of a deeper truth. That is about what we are speaking is about what we are speaking. That's about what we are speaking about. That's it right there. Wild berries. I feel compelled to just think about surfers right now. A surfer doesn't try to control the ocean. They're not trying to make the waves do certain things. Control the. I'm gonna make this thing happen. Because I'm forcing the ocean to do this thing so that I have this experience. More so, you're hanging out, watching the sets, getting a sense of where the ocean is. Maybe you're factoring in some lore that you know about from local lore about this particular beach and what the break's like. Maybe you're kind of just listening to the weather, feeling it. Maybe you're just listening to the actual surf, listening to the sound of water. There's a lot of information and sound. And maybe eventually you decide to go out. And you're never trying to change the waves. You're more so positioning yourself in relationship to the waves, in relationship to the break. Just right. And it's about positioning, not changing. And if you position yourself just right and are there with the actual moment, in acceptance of the moment, not resisting the moment, therefore you will feel that just rightness. I don't know, just rightness. Maybe that could be a word, just rightness. And that's what leads to the experience. Not trying to control the ocean. So it's acceptance of what is, not trying to force. I mean, it's crazy to think. I mean, I like that example because think about trying to make the ocean do something. I mean, it's just such a, if you've ever been humbled by the ocean, you know what I mean. It's not an option to move something that powerful. It's a deity. It is so powerful, just not even an option. But essentially, you get to surf if you position yourself in relationship to what is. And that's essentially the same thing with core, being in relationship to what is it that you are doing and that is happening and that is around you. That's essentially authenticity, being in relationship to what is. So, surf's up.